Good evening and welcome to another installment of WrestleTalkShow. I'm your host Joshua Zimmerman, here bringing you wrestling's ins and outs. The good, bad, the ugly, everything wrestling. First, and as always, we want to thank our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter following. Our demographics have never looked stronger, especially in the 18 to 34. The 34 to 55 is surprising me. And as of last look 2 days ago, we have a 22% of our following, our demographics rather, are that of the female gender, which is a little different. Good to see women into wrestling. We hope that the product doesn't disappoint and you guys go back to watching soap operas because we're glad to have you. And we do appreciate your support, everyone's support. Thank you. Uh, as I've always said, we do this for the enjoyment, for your entertainment, and for our entertainment, and just because I love to see myself on a camera. But that's besides the point. Raw. Let's get right into the ratings of wrestling last week. As of the time of this vidcast, we are an hour and a half away from Monday Night Raw, which I imagine will do very well, but in comparison to a Monday Night Football game, or several of them, see it getting... Actually, Raw for October 18th scored a 3.1, so see it between a 2.8 and a 3.2 is my prediction. Uh, Impact for 1020 Impact for 1021 scored a 1.6. That's down from the 1.9 on 1014, where we all thought they were on to something. Turns out we were right. Consistency isn't in the playbook of TNA. They're just doing what they want. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. Hell, every vidcast we could get into that. It could never end. It could be a whole vidcast about TNA Impact, TNA, and how Dixie Carter's just a face, and how the whole show is. Well, we'll get into it. Impact, like I said, they witnessed between the 1021 and the 1014 Impact, they witnessed an 18% viewership drop off. Now, this just goes to show what I said in the last vidcast about hopefully they'll keep up with the consistency. They'll realize what they did good and stick with it. Guess I was wrong. That's I'm not happy to be wrong about it, but I don't think anybody's surprised. I don't think we put much stock into the follow through. 18% drop off. If they're overlooking it, they're just idiotic. But they probably are. SmackDown for 1022 scored a 1.7. That's down from a 1.8 the previous week. And it tied for the lowest rating on Sci-Fi for a 4 week period on the program itself. I don't want to say this is bad because I think the kinks are still being worked out. As I said last video, I know I said give it a month and then do the average from there. But it's always been the B show, and you just got to think, you just got to think they took one show last week to pay attention to bragging rights. It doesn't matter for the other 364 days out of the year. SmackDown and Raw never compete. This is never an issue. So it doesn't really hold any water when it comes pay-per-view time. This is more or less a filler pay-per-view. A reason for Vince to charge another $50. And I doubt his buys are going to be anywhere near what he hoped. But hey, we've been surprised before. Filling in on news bits and rumors, I don't follow MMA, and you're not here for MMA talk, but I just thought it'd be hysterically funny for the fans to find out Brock Lesnar this past Sunday was knocked out in the first round of his overly hyped fight. I couldn't be happier. You couldn't cut it as a wrestler. You went to a football player. You made wrestling and the people in it look like idiots because they all gave you the push because they thought you were the next big thing, Brock Lesnar. And then you walked away from them. Went into football. Ended up being a bench warmer. Walked away from that. Got into MMA. Couldn't walk out, but got knocked out. Seeing a pattern? I am. Somebody's got to get rid of this guy. And this isn't a rant on Brock Lesnar. Well, it's not intended to be. This isn't a rant on Brock Lesnar. It's just this guy doesn't know what his niche is. I really think he disrespected the wrestling community. I have my own. That'll be a different rant in itself. But this guy, just to sum it up for now, this guy was given multiple opportunities, pushed harder than some guys that have been there in the business for years, and he kind of snubbed his nose and left. Now there's a rumor that he might be back for WrestleMania. Is this an indication that if Brock loses, he packs up his toys and goes home? I think so. Matt Hardy, released from World Wrestling Entertainment on or around October 18th. We're still gaining details on that. Ruling comes down in Connecticut that voters are not allowed to wear WWE merchandise on the November 2nd election. And Vince isn't real happy about it, and you gotta wonder why, considering Linda's whole campaign has been, it shouldn't be about the wrestling. So you'd think he'd be happy for his wife that finally they're not letting the wrestling come into the political side of it, even though it's already bleeded in, and it's the only reference she has is work experience. But I don't know. That's just a little news bit there. That's really even nothing that you can get all shooken up about. It just sounded interesting. The main topic for tonight is the new campaign WWE is launching. Yes, that's right. Support WWE. Stand up, as they put it, for WWE. What is that, you ask? This is WWE's attempt, which takes away wrestling time every program. I imagine we'll see it again on Raw and again on SmackDown up until she's elected, to note all the good they've done and all the policies they have in place, but it doesn't address anything that's being questioned now. It's a stop picking on me, but we're not going to give you any kind of insight. We're just going to give you the smoke and mirrors standard company lines, but we're not going to address the wrestler deaths. We're not going to address the pill addictions. We're not going to address the soma addictions. We're not going to address physical conditions of wrestlers. How we don't care when how we really don't care when said wrestlers die. Matter of fact, we'd rather you not mention it at all. That would be easier for us. And then you have this, stand up for WWE. And like I said, it's just them saying, stand up and fight back against the negative criticism WWE is getting because we've done so much of good. And they have. They're a major contributor to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, multiple charities. They do work in Iraq and Afghanistan for our troops. They do a lot of good. They do. But they're also responsible for a lot of bad. As I said in the last vidcast, Chris Benoit was allowed to fail 3 drug tests because he was a reigning world heavyweight champion. How he accomplished this didn't matter. But when you talk about it, it's Chris Benoit who. Moving on, they announced their wellness policy. That's all well and good if it applied to everybody, which it doesn't. It applies to the underlings who don't get the taping, who don't get the TV time, and who aren't on top. And even if you are on top, they've already sent the message that if you're making us money, we're not going to get rid of you. To get back on point with this, they haven't, since Linda's Senate race brought all this negativity up, they haven't addressed any of the criticism that is put out there. It's like I said, it's just a standard video that says, "Look at all the good we've done." Doesn't outline independent contractor versus employee, why they insist on separating. Um, it's just to stop picking on us. Vince has two or three YouTube videos up that WWE will not back down to the criticism and the government wanting to shut us up. The government doesn't want to shut you up. The government wants you to pay your dues to the guys that have paid your bills for the last for some years. It's time Vince McMahon's checkbook opened up and these guys start getting what your average 9 to 5 would get. Decent pay, medical, and not just medical attention at the time, and then here's a settlement to buy out your contract. I've talked about it over and over again. It would not cost, it's going to cost them a lot of money if it's all retroactive. But if these guys are bringing in the kind of cake, like I said, the active coffer for WWE quarter to quarter is between 200 and 220 some $million. Now it will cost Vince more than that if everything's retroactive, but why aren't you showing these guys, hey, I care about you. You're not just you're not just the flavor of the week. If your first character run doesn't work out, we can bring you back and try something else and then put you back on TV. Yeah, you're injured. That was a hell of a match. Sorry that happened to you. Want you to know that we're going to pay, and when you get better, the doctor says you can still wrestle, we'll wrestle you to whatever capacity we can wrestle you. It just seems like these guys get hurt, and instead of having to assuming full-blown responsibility, here's a settlement, here's your medical bill, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good day and have a nice life in the independence. And I think Hulk Hogan is your best example. Not that WWE didn't do most of it, not that Hogan didn't want it. But look at what Hulk Hogan looks like now. Now I understand the back problem has been ongoing, but he's a beat up man, and it shouldn't be this way. These guys should be protected. They shouldn't have to stash money away or come already wealthy like Triple H did, who already had money from other businesses when he joined wrestling. You shouldn't have to establish your own health care plan before you get into wrestling. Wrestling should cover it. Or at least make it clear, like some of the independents do, make it clear cut that you're over the age, in writing for every show, that you're over the age of 18, you understand the risks that you're partaking in, you've trained to the fullest of your ability, you've been supervised by a trainer when you're training, etc., etc. At least protect yourself before you come out and blatantly don't help these guys. They should be given the option. Hell, like I said, it should be like any other paycheck. You get your gross, and then after all your deductions, you get your net. One of your deductions should be an insurance plan. That as long as you're with us, you're paying into it, and we're gonna help you. Stand up for WWE. What are we standing up against? WWE brought all this on itself. And if they answered some real questions, maybe it wouldn't still be, maybe the negativity still wouldn't be looming in the air, Vince. Answer directly and not in a roundabout way. Just a thought. Until next time, feel free to visit us on WrestleTalkShow.webs.com, Facebook.com/CWE Company. Send all feedback, news, bits, rumors, comments, anything you want wrestling to CWEcompany@gmail.com. Again, thank you for your support, and until our next installment, enjoy Monday Night Raw.